Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are in this wonderful day. It's Furahi Day. Hopefully you had a wonderful week. Now that we are approaching the end of the week, it's the weekend actually starting. So today I want to mention, just talk about simple stuff. I won't be here for long. You know how it is. I usually say I won't be here for long, but I'll be here for long. But this time I mean it. I won't be here for long. Probably 30 minutes max, maybe less. Because, like I said, I have stuff to do. The topic of the day is going to be Raila at it again. And also, we are going to talk about Malala, him showing his immaturity. It showed in that funeral of, I forgot whose funeral it was, back in Western, where, Mudavadi was also there and other folks, even the speaker, Tangela, was also there, okay? So I will talk about that. But karibuni sana. Let me just start with the formalities, okay? If this is your first time in this channel, my name is Kenya Revolutionary. I talk about Kenyan politics as it relates, and world politics as it relates to Kenya, okay? So if you like that kind of content, I'm your political dietitian. I will give you the nutrients that you need to navigate through the Kenyan politics and have a proper objective understanding of how our politics is conducted. So if you like that kind of content, go ahead and subscribe, share, like, comment, and do all the good stuff, okay? And put your notification button on, so every time I come in, you will always find me here. And if you've already subscribed, you know the first order of business is to do what? Like the video. Thank you so much. Now that we got that out of the way, I just want to mention something that I really quite didn't get the chance to talk about. I was privileged to be part of the panelists in Brother Benson's page in his channel yesterday, and we kind of touched on it. And that's why I want to reiterate my point here. We had a discussion, and I was asked, what did I think about Raila Odinga's pronouncements about, reducing the 47 counties down to, 7 or whatever the case is. You had Raila Odinga came up with that. And like I said there in that panel, I say that I generally agree with Raila's idea of, reducing the counties from 47 to 7. But the bigger point that I want to maintain, which I also made, which I want to re-emphasize here, is it does not matter how many counties, how many provinces, or whether we have a federal system or whatever the case is. It does not matter if the rule of law is not respected, if it's not implemented, if it's not enforced. There is nothing much we shall do with this new arrangement or structure of governance, okay? Of government, okay? So we can have 100 counties or 47 or 7 or 2 or 3 or 1,000,000. It does not matter. Even if you have 1 or 2, it does not matter. What really counts is that we have laws that can be enforced. Okay, we enforce our laws. When somebody breaks the law, it is enforced. They are brought to account. Okay, that way, that's the only thing. It is the law that actually makes these people, will stop these people from stealing. Okay, I'm not saying the law itself, just because we have a law in place in the books, does not necessarily translate to people obeying the laws. We have to have law enforcement because, as you know, we have a constitution, a wonderful, well-written constitution, very progressive in my opinion. But the problem is we do not have law enforcement. You have people who, majority of them being in political class, do not respect the constitution, do not respect the rule of law. They do whatever they want. They commit atrocities against Kenyans. They steal money from these counties and stuff. And they're still walking around. These are the celebrities that when they talk and people clap at them. So the main issue, as I've always maintained, we miss this somehow. You had Gachagua on that interview with Okwara when he was saying the problem in Kenya is corruption. But the problem is not corruption. The real problem, the original sin is not just corruption. The original sin is just not tribalism. Okay? I know for some of you it's too much. You can't fathom that. You think, oh yeah, Kenya shida yetu ni ukabila na tuko na ufisadi na sijui nini ukora, corruption and ukarabati and all that stuff. No, that's not the underlying problem. That's not the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem is lack of law enforcement. We have laws in place, but no one is enforcing them. It is only being enforced if Wanjiru, Wanjiku, Anyango, Nyaboke are committing those crimes. They will be hauled into the next magistrate's court to be sentenced and be punished for their crimes. But when these members of political class, we've watched these politicians, we have had politicians shooting people on camera, and they're still walking around running for gubernatorial seats. The Waluke was even charged, found guilty, taken to prison. This guy was taken out of prison, ran, and he's a governor somewhere. I don't know what he is. We have these governors stealing money. Boss lady over there, Wanyi Vandeti, my girl. She's stealing money in Machakos. Alfred Mutua, Wanga, name it. These people are looting. Sakaja is living his life. I just read that he's trying to purchase a new house in California using taxpayers' money, Nairobians' money, okay? He's looting Nairobi dry, Kidero. The list is endless. But why are these people not in jail? Atwoli, his beer bill is growing by the minute, okay? And he's calling you guys Shenzi. Why? Because there's no law enforcement. We have law in place, books, but no one is enforcing the law. Now, the question comes, and I like what Brother Benson asked me yesterday, and he asked me a question that, okay, so who will enforce this law if the people who are supposed to check these people, okay, check this law-breaking people, whether it's the members of the political class or whatever the case is, who is going to enforce these laws if these people are actually dependent on the very lawbreakers that they are supposed to be arrested? Okay, that's a very good question. Okay, who will arrest these people? Now, that's why I'm saying I keep on maintaining this. The same passion, the same. Let me take you back. Let me give you this example. Remember when Kibaki came to power in 2002? Remember that? He had such goodwill, after 24 years of corruption under Moi and oppression and lack of freedom of expression, freedom of association, and all that stuff, okay? People were so relieved and happy to have a new regime come in place that I remember there were numerous reports where when the policemen would stop matatus to ask for mhongo, okay, to ask for, a bribe, the wananchi would scold the police officer and even arrest the police officer for asking for Ninio. Thank you, Green. Nice seeing you. They will come out and actually arrest this police officer, saying, "Hey, we are under new dispensation. We are not under Moi's rule." And they would actually, stop the bribing, the law, the breaking of the law. That's how people were so moved and were happy to live under a new administration, okay? People were actually making sure that these police officers will not just stop the matatus, stop these buses, and ask for hongo. The wananchi was standing up and saying, no. Hiyo mambo ya kuchukua hongo iliisha kwa ile serikali, ilikuwa siku za serikali ya Moi. We are no longer doing this anymore, okay? So you could see there was the will of the people, okay? The general ethos was, we are not going to stand for something that hasn't worked. They stood up to the state, not state as far as Kibaki's administration at the time, but these police officers, these agents, instruments of the state who are taking advantage of their position to earn a bribe. And the wananchi was standing up and saying, no, we are not going to stand for this. You're not going to take bribes. This is a new dispensation. We are living under a new administration. This is a new Kenya, 2002. We are done with that mambo ya ninio. You understand? Of course, we know the story. Unfortunately, Kibaki, reneged on his promises, and we came right back at where we are right now. Okay, after he, the scandals with the Tour brothers, and you know the story. Okay, the gold, not golden bag. What's the name? Yeah, you know the story. I don't have to revisit that. But what I'm trying to say is this: the question that was posed was, so who is going to hold these members of the political class uh, accountable for their crime? Here it is. Sorry, there's like a helicopter coming out. it's right above me. But anyway, so the answer is simple. It is the people. And how will the people hold these people accountable? By the very laws that are in place in the books. I often refer to the Article 226, subsection 5, which says that any public official currently holding office or before that has misappropriated public funds is liable to pay off those funds. Now, that is what the article says. That's what the law says. That's what the Constitution says, okay? So, why is it that all these Kidero, Sakaja, I don't know, you name it, Wanga, Wanyuvandeti, you name it, all these governors and public officials who have swindled billions of Kenyan shillings, okay? Why are they not being arrested and being held accountable, okay? It is because, not because there's no political will, I'm saying it is because we, the Wananchi, okay, we are not demanding for justice. See, a system can be in place. The rule of law can be in place. But the people cannot be complacent and sit there. I mean, the governor of Kiambu was, accused of corruption, akashikwa, akapelekwa. He's even in akapelekwa prison. You saw that, right? What's his name? I forgot his name. That guy is a very funny guy, okay? He was in prison, right? All of a sudden, Namona ameshatoka. Like he's greeting all these big people and he's out, okay? Why? He was sentenced to, I don't know what, how many years, whatever the case is, okay? But suddenly he's out of the Nino. Why? Why are people not asking these questions? Why is he out? Why? What happened? Okay? So what I'm trying to say is this. You can have a system, because what creates a system is the rule of laws and how those laws are actually followed to the T. Okay? I'll give you an example. If you look at, for example, countries like England or United States, let's just use US for example. Okay, it's a devolved system. It's a federal system. They have the states that has their own statutes. They have their counties, and all that stuff. But here's the thing, though. Even though they do have their individual states that have different laws, okay, they also have federal laws that all these states have to respect, right? So even if, and this is the example that I gave yesterday, even if, let's say, pick one state, let's say California, okay? California is a liberal state, okay? So if California is predominantly, the voters there are Democrats, okay? Let's just use that, all right? So even if the governor is a Democrat, which is, I think his name is Newsbaum or whatever the case is, all right, so let's say the governor is a Democrat, the majority of their Senate are Democrats, the mayor is a Democrat, the mayor of mayoral position at the county level now are Democrats, whatever the case is, okay? That does not mean that these guys can just break the law because they're all Democrats and they're going to cover all their butts. It does not mean that they can steal public funds and cover their tracks just because they're Democrats, okay? Or we are going to eat, or we're governor, then, I'll pass some trinkets of, wads of cash to the Senate that are supposed to actually provide checks and balances, okay? Look at the books and make sure that I'm doing everything okay. He can't just bribe these folks down here and think he can get away with it, okay? It doesn't work that way. even though the state might be predominantly Democrats, Democratic voters, or leaning left, or they're coming from the Democratic Party, they still have to govern according to what the California laws say. Okay, even if they pass these laws, okay, they have to, even, yes, they can pass the laws and have their own laws, but those laws have to be in line with their constitution, US Constitution. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. So even if in the county level, or, you know, the governor is doing something wrong, maybe he's misappropriating public funds, okay, he won't get away with it simply because the people who are supposed to, the Senate in California, are not doing their job. He won't get away with it, because when the federal government comes in and do their audit and find that there's some money that are being misappropriated in this in this state, an investigation shall take place, and if he's found guilty, he shall be jailed, impeached, and he will not be eligible to run for any public office. You understand what I'm saying? So, having, given the fact that you come from one state is predominantly, um, of a certain political party, it shouldn't mean that these guys can loot and cover their tracks. Because if there's an investigation, if investigation happens as to how they're spending their money, how they're governing, if they are really following the rule of law, okay, if they break any law, they should still face the punishment, regardless of whether they are Democrats or they are Republicans, okay? So, bringing back that example, and I want to use CIA, for example, okay? CIA, okay? We just read about this young man who was accused of swindling or using 100 and I don't know how many, 100, is it 100 billion or 100 million that he stole from CIA County, okay? Now, if the ESCC, okay, comes in and do their investigation, the Auditor General came up with a report and said, hey, listen, CIA County can't account for 52 billion. I'm just using an example, okay? They can't account for 52 billion, okay? Now, that investigation at that point can turn into a criminal investigation, because we don't know where this money is, because we have to get to the bottom of this, okay? Now, the Senate might question the governor. The Senate can ask the what's his name, the person, Treasury, the person who's the accountant, senior accountant of the state, okay? So investigation should be ongoing, okay? And if possibly criminal investigation, because 56 billion, for example, of public funds is lost, cannot be accounted for in CIA County. So the investigation should take place, and whoever is found liable should face the full of the law. Okay, so if it's found that that money ended up in the governor's bank account, personal account, and the deputy governors and the MCAs, however much they deal with it, whoever the buck stops with, who will be found guilty, should be taken to jail and imprisoned, impeached, and cannot qualify to run for any public office. Understand what I'm saying? So even if Siaya County is majorly an ODM dominated, politically speaking, dominated county, okay? Whether it's the MCAs, whether it's the governor, whether it's the whoever, okay? Ward or whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. They can cover their tracks all they want. They can they can cover their tracks, eat this money, whatever the case is. Orengo can buy every MCA there so that those MCA do not call him out on his corrupt deals. But if the EACC comes in and does, together with the Auditor General, if they do their investigation, their audit, and find that there's money missing that cannot be accounted for, it should become a criminal case. okay, they should be investigated and see where this money actually went. Because once you open the investigation, okay, and pursue it, somebody will be held accountable, and that somebody needs to be jailed, okay? And that's how the law actually operates. You use the law to actually enforce what needs to be done if there's any suspicion of criminal activity. So the reason why I'm saying the lack of law enforcement in Kenya is what is causing all this problem, okay? So you find that, okay, you see the Attorney General, Auditor General has been giving us report after report of every county, almost every county in Kenya, including the executive branch of government and the judiciary. I mean, we've heard about Juris Pesa, okay? Telling us that pesa imepotea hapa, I don't know, 100 whatever billion cannot be accounted for in this county, another billion cannot be accounted for in this county, another billion. But where does that end up? Your story inaisha hivyo. We just hear it on standard media or whatever, Citizen TV or whatever the case, inakuwa story for the day. Then after a week, we forgot about it. We are distracted by Wamunyoro exclusive interview, sit down, or Raila Odinga meeting, I don't know who, Malala, whatever the case is, okay? So that's what I'm saying. There should be a follow-up, and somebody needs to be held accountable. So there's nobody enforcing the law. The laws are there, and these people should be prosecuted and face jail time and should qualify to run for any public office. But these guys are running around. In 2 years, you'll see them running for president after, stealing 10 billion in their county, whatever, when they were governors, when they were senators, when they were, you understand what I'm saying? So you see how the lack of law enforcement of the law in place kind of breeds, okay, a culture of corruption. That's why these guys can run around with choppers and carry a whole sack of cash and throw it to the wananchi, okay? You see what I'm saying? So that's where it starts from. So to me, when Raila came out and said, we need 7, I don't know, we should move from 47 to 7 provinces or whatever the case is, counties, it makes no difference whether you have 47 or 7 or 2 or 1 or 10, because at the end of the day, even if you reduce it to 7 provinces, like 8 provincial sections that we had before, we still had corruption. You're not stopping corruption, because they, those same people, they're not going anywhere. They're still going to steal. I mean, even if you put these provincial commissioners, if you go back to their PC days, okay, provincial commissioner and all that stuff, if you go back to that, it won't stop corruption. So the argument that we need to reduce, we have all these 47 counties, there's too many, we should go back to 7, it's null and void to me. It does not make a difference. You can have 100, you can have 10, you're still going to have these people stealing money, even if you have 7, because the bottom line is this: there is no law enforcement that holds these criminals that are stealing public funds accountable. And if you do not have that, it doesn't matter how many counties you have or how many provinces you have, they're still going to steal this money. You understand? But like I explained yesterday, Raila, the mischief in what Raila was saying is this: it's not about reducing the number of counties, okay? Raila's itch, which has been itching him for a long time, him along with the political class, his brother Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto and the others, they've always wanted people to go back to the referendum. He's using this county issue to kind of have you guys get excited with this idea of going to a referendum. He wants people to go to referendum. I told you, I mentioned this. NADCO is being, the reason why Raila Odinga is still with Ruto in this MOU or whatever the case is, broad-based government, is because the NADCO is going on as planned. Because NADCO was Raila's brainchild, Raila and Uhuru. And possibly Ruto, okay? This is what we call BBI. This was what we call government of national unity. That's what it is, okay? So they've always wanted to change the constitution so that they can legally have paychecks and an office and red carpets and security and pensions, okay, that they can enjoy, the trappings of power that comes with these offices that they want to create for themselves, okay? Right now they wanakula pesa, but it's ile pesa ya chini ya maji. Let me give you an example. For example, remember when there was a question about how much money was spent in Raila's quest for the AU seat? Remember that? Silileta controversy, okay? Then the AG came out and akasema ati there was a couple of billion. I think it was like 42 billion that the government could not account for. And somebody, the question was, who authorized that money to be removed from the treasury? You understand what I'm saying? Okay? So it's obvious that the executive branch of government is also involved in corruption. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So, again, it does not matter. But what I'm trying to say is this: these guys have always wanted to create offices, positions to accommodate everyone, these tribal chieftains coming from majority of the regions that they perceive the person is influential enough to deserve that seat. For example, Musalia Mudavadi is from the Western Province. Him, along with, arguably to me, Musalia Mudavadi is the not popular, but is the most known politician coming from the Western Province, okay? Forget the noise from the Tawe guy, but I'm just talking about Musalia. He's the statesman from the Western region, okay? If you go to the Kalenjins, right now you can say Ruto is. If you go to Mount Kenya, you can argue Wamunyoro is and all that. You see what I'm saying? Nyanza is Raila. Ukambani is Kalonzo. You see what I'm saying? So these are the guys who are fighting, who want this broad-based government. That's why if you look at the NADCO, when they were talking about that NADCO, look at the people who are actually negotiating this NADCO deal. It was, part of them was not Musalia Mudavadi, the Kamba guy. What's his name? Kalonzo Musyoka. Sorry, okay? So what I'm trying to say is this: is Raila is using this whole gubernatorial or county issue, this devolution issue, okay, to draw us to the polls so we can go vote for something, okay? But what will be there to be voted for or against will not only be the reduction of the number of counties. Another issue that will be brought up for a referendum will be the creation or the expansion of the executive branch of government, where we shall have prime ministerial position, deputy prime ministerial positions, and so forth, so forth. But what is used to lure you to agree to this idea of going to a referendum is the fact that they want to paint a picture that we have a huge government, we have 47 counties, we need to bring it back to 7, okay? And they're using these corruption cases as a reason to do so. They want to convince you that, hey, listen, this government has criminals, they've been looting money, you've just got to ask the Auditor General, okay? Every county, okay, there's a scandal about how money is being misused, misappropriated, okay? So they will argue that, you see, there's too much, the government is too much. We have 47 counties, and in every county, we can see that money is being misappropriated. So let's get back to 7 provinces, okay? And that will be the issue that hata wewe ukiangalia TV unaona wakina Wanga wanakula do. Sakaja is anakula do. Wavinya Ndeti is kula. Every county, every county, there's corruption cases. So it's easy to persuade you. For those gullible people, they'll be, yeah, it's true. We can see that there's corruption, and we have 47 counties. We are losing a lot of money, so let's bring it back to 7. Okay, it will make sense to the gullible. But another issue that shall be brought up in the referendum will be the issue of the expansion of the executive branch of government, which will include prime ministerial positions and other, or maybe stretching this cabinet, the CS places. They might make it a CS position where, the president cannot fire his CSS. Okay, it will be the parliament who can do that, so that people can have kind of semi-permanent permanent ministerial positions, okay? Like CS positions. So this is the kind of trick that Raila is actually using, but he's using the issue of devolution to actually lure you into the, wanting to go to a referendum. Now, with the Malala, very quickly, because it's 30 minutes. Malala, I saw Malala's speech. It wasn't even a speech. It was him basically acting like a total lunatic in that funeral. And, the DCP guys are like, oh, yeah, Malala Nafinya is injecting. Listen, I do not agree with Musalia Mudavadi on anything, and have never agreed with Musalia Mudavadi on anything. But on this matter, I'm with Musalia Mudavadi absolutely 100%. This guy came up there and, first of all, it's a funeral, for crying out loud, okay? He grabs the mic and starts talking about what Wetangula should be doing or not doing. Sorry, wrong venue. You're doing the right thing at the wrong venue. He was very, very, he was disrespectful in so many ways, okay? I can care less about the disrespect towards Wetangula, because Wetangula is a criminal, again. But the fact that that was a funeral where people went to mourn and eulogize about the departed, okay? It wasn't the venue to start behaving like a total lunatic. He grabbed the mic, started talking about, oh, Musalia, I don't know, Mimi Sim to Akutishwa, It was just childish. It really showed how immature this Malala guy is. And that's the guy who the DCP are actually considering to be the vice president if Wamunyoro becomes the president. I mean, you see the level of unseriousness, okay, about this Kenyan politics in general, not just DCP, but I mean, yeah. So anyway, Musalia Mudavadi came in after Malala's lunacy, and basically scolded this pinhead and told him, listen, you cannot come in a funeral and start speaking in the manner in which you're speaking. When Nani, the speaker was speaking, Malala was playing out music that was, not music yadini, appropriate for the, funeral environment, atmosphere, and he was heckling and doing all sorts of things. Then when he was given a chance to speak, he kind of went there and started disparaging the speaker's name, okay? And it was just childish. I mean, the clip is out there for you guys to see if you go to X and just type Malala. And it's unfortunate because there are people who are saying that this guy was injecting. He was not injecting anything. He was actually acting like a total buffoon, total buffoonery. Okay. So I agree with. I really like how Musalia Mudavadi handled it. It showed that Musalia Mudavadi is very mature. Came up there and say, "Hey, listen, do not come up here asking to shake my hand after acting like a total lunatic. Okay? You should, first of all, respect where you are. You should respect the fact that this is a funeral. There are people who are mourning, and you came here talking about politics, disrespecting Wetangula. I mean, you can have your difference with Wetangula and say that in another venue, not in a funeral. Okay? But the way that you're acting, you came here with your own car, blasting music that is inappropriate for a funeral environment, heckling. Then when you're given a chance to speak, to eulogize about the departed, you come up here and start saying things that have nothing to do with anything. So shame on you, Malala. So this shows, this is, if I was Gachagua, number one, if I was Gachagua, I would fire Malala there and then. I will fire Malala. Okay, I know you, and I understand he needs somebody from the Western Bloc to kind of, get some Western votes. But Malala is not it. Okay, use Malala to be the organizer wa huko chini. You know, Malala is kind of like he's like the gauchos of this world without the violence. Maybe he gets involved in violence. We saw him fighting Tibet and whatever the case is. But I would use Malala as a mobilizer, ground mobilizer, but do not elevate him to a position of a, you know, deputy party leader or whatever the case is. This guy is not, the way he moves, the way he's behaving. But I'm not here to give you political advice, because, like I said, there'll be no solution coming from DCP, ODM, UDA, KK, Azimio. Oh, none of this. I don't know, Matiangi, name it. Nothing. There's only one solution. It's a total overhaul of the system. So in summation, what I want to say and re-emphasize is this. The problem with the Kenyan political system is that there is no law enforcement. We have a constitution that has not been fully implemented. The people who we voted for delegated this authority to advance our interests, okay, have turned against us, and they've made Ruto to become the Ayatollah of the Kenyan criminal enterprise, because we do not have a republic. Okay? So Ruto is ruling the way he wishes. Okay? And is using every influencer. And when I say influencer, I'm not talking about social media influencer. I'm talking about these political influencers, the Raila Odingas and all these nonsensical people, to do whatever he wants. So you are not going to vote him off in 2027. For the umpteenth time, you are not going to change a system of lawlessness by voting them out, because you cannot vote them out. They are going to be the one counting the vote. So the only way is to overhaul the whole system by doing what? By having a popular people's revolution. Declaring, going back to Article 1 and saying, we are firing everybody and we are starting anew, and we are going to choose people who will fully implement the Constitution and fully respect the law. Matiangi is a candidate for 2027. This guy stood up and said on camera that he does not care about human rights. He said that. He defied almost more than 10 court orders. He never appeared in court, never gave two shits about it. This is the guy who wants to promise you, telling you that he's going to run for president, he will uphold the Constitution. Wamunyoro, embroiled in corruption, okay, brutalizing his own people in 1992. This is the guy who wants to convince you that he will uphold the Constitution. Ruto, need I say more? Raila Odinga, the con man, he has been in every administration. Martha Karua, has been in politics forever. When she was the Minister of Constitutional Affairs, what did she achieve? Absolutely nothing. And you think these people are going to be the ones to uphold the Constitution once they get that, power? No, they won't. So we have to demonstrate to them that they actually do not have the power. And the only way to do that is for us to come together and have a popular revolution and invoke Article 1 of the Constitution, which gives us the sovereign power and the will to charter our way forward by declaring, hey, everyone at the executive branch of government is fired, everyone at the legislative body is fired, everybody at the judiciary is fired, everyone in the IBC is fired. We shall start anew. And we shall vote in people who will fully implement the Constitution and respect the rule of law. And anyone, and I mean anyone, who violates the laws and the Constitution shall face justice. Justice shall be applied to everyone equally, whether you are the member of the political class or the lower class or whatever the case is. That is the way forward. People's revolution. Hakuna kitu wengine. All this what's happening with Wakina Matiangi, sijui Gachagua, Raila, Uhuru, Ruto, these are only distractions designed to entertain you and programming you into lulling you to stay complacent. They're telling you you are lucky to live in a peaceful country. Don't you hear them every day telling you that? You are lucky because you are living in a peaceful country while they loot billions from SHA every day. You can't afford healthcare because they've looted everything. They shoot your kids, your jobless kids, who are basically protesting, which is allowed. The economic conditions that we are facing. They shoot them down and they tell you, we'll pay them, don't worry about it. They put Macau Mutua, that's pseudo-intellectual. Oh, we shall pay them, don't worry about it. Faith Biambo, the LSK president, who has also been co-opted, has been for a long time. They prop up that clown. What's his name? The People's Watchman is running for president. They're telling you it's an privilege to live in a country where there's peace. You know, if you let these people, if you have a revolution, you will not know peace. It will be bad. It will be worse than 2007. That's what they're telling you, so that you don't stand up and remove them, because they know you have the power, but they don't want you to realize that you actually have the power to fire them. That's why this idea of partyless, leaderless, tribeless was squashed. And they want to bring this Kenya Moja using the faces of Babu Owino and Sifuna and Wamuchomba and Ndindi Nyoro to fool you that these are the new faces that represent you. They are young like you. They will fight for your interest. Because the idea is to make sure that the idea of having a tribeless, leaderless, partyless ideology is something dangerous to them, not to us. That's the society that we aspire to become, a nation that we want. Like I said, most of these problems, as I wrap up with this, most of these problems that we have in Kenya, like ukabila, tribalism, and corruption, has been dealt with in the Constitution. Imagine if anyone, any politician, any public official that misappropriates public funds was jailed. If that was the case, would we be having these news outlets entertaining them while they spew their vitriol, their nonsensical, tribal nonsense? Because every time these people are brought to account, they'll say, I'm being targeted because I'm a Kikuyu. I'm being targeted because I'm a Luo. I'm being targeted because I'm a lawyer. I'm being targeted because I am Sijuinin. If they were, listen to me, if these people were taken to court, evidence is there, and this court should be televised so that evidence shows. We know these people are thieves. I mean, who doesn't know that Sonko stole money when he was Nino? Who doesn't know that Kidero stole money when he was governor? Who doesn't know that Sakaja is stealing money? If these people are locked up and nobody forgets about them, they're in prison, serving a life sentence. We won't be having them running around like Malala in that federal, talking about this and that and that and that, continue with this circus. They will be scared. The system would be working because the money, the billions that they're stealing would be used to actually take care of the things that we need to take care of. We'll be building roads. We'll be having a wonderful healthcare. We'll be having a better economy, better production. The police will be paid well so they don't mistreat people and take their frustration on us. Well-trained. Okay, we will be having a vibrant society. It takes care of that. But the reason why this whole Injili ya Shetani of tribalism is working is because majority are living in poverty. And the disparity between the rich and the poor is so huge. And these rich are using the instrument that's supposed to be used to advocate or act in public interest, called the media, to educate the wananchi that they actually have the power and the say-so to determine who gets to represent them or not. But this instrument called the media that we refer to as Githeri media is being used to do what? For this circus, to use it as a tool to divide through tribalism. One term, two term, nonsense, instead of educating the masses about the actual power that they have as a people if they come together, because they're the sovereign. But it's used to divide you and to program you and to annoy you and to lead you, lull you to stay complacent. They're telling you, wanafanya kazi, tunatenga, tunafanya kazi. Nimetoa sijui ni ngapi, pikipiki 300, vijana wapate kazi. Nimepatia Harambee Stars milioni sijui ngapi, wapate. And you're cheering because you do not know better. The media that's supposed to open your eyes and tell you that, hey, listen, this is bullshit. We need something new. We need to actually revitalize our industries. We actually need to have better infrastructure. We actually need to do things that will help our economy. We need to actually have our rights guaranteed, like as it states in the Constitution. We need to actually jail these people who are breaking the law. We actually need to get this president impeached since he has continuously breached the Constitution, breached the law. We actually need to recall these MPs. We actually need to stand up to the IBC who are refusing to carry out their job. We actually have to stand up to the just judges that are actually taking mhongo. But no, they have programmed you to stay complacent so that you can wait full 2027. Then 2027 again, they'll tell you, siwari, wacha Ruto aendelee. Akitoka hapo itakuwa vita. Na mtabaki hapo. Instead of going to a revolution, tunaenda kwa street. Revolution does not mean that tunaenda na panga kupigana huko kwa street. No. Revolution, people's revolution simply means we stand up, tunaenda Nairobi, occupy State House, tunamwambia hatutoki hapa mpaka we are not leaving until the president atoe speech aseme ati ana resign, like they did in Bangladesh. They did it in Sudan. They did it in Bangladesh and other countries. We maintain, tunasema hatutoki hapa mpaka Ruto, you announce that you have resigned. Wewe si Ruto peke yake, Ruto na watu wote na wanasiasa wote. Anyway, I'll leave it here. I promised to stay in 30 minutes, but it's been 48 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers, sisters, friends, and comrades, my name is Ken Arabusha. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm on again. Peace and blessings. I'm out.